With Chicago sitting at 5-9 and a 3% chance of making the 2023 and 2024 playoffs, yes, I am still pounding the table with that. The Chicago Bears still have 2 top 10 picks at the moment, and Ryan Poles and company have a lot to think about. Justin Fields is having his best career year in the NFL so far, but some don't think it's enough. And with offensive coordinator Luke Getsy likely, which should be, in my opinion, on the move, what should the Bears do this offseason for the future of their quarterback one? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Dick Brody, and I am joined alongside a very special guest today, my good friend Rashab over from the Windy City Productions. We have a very touchy subject for you guys today in the quarterback future of the Chicago Bears. But before we jump into that, Rashab, how you doing, my man?
Doing good, man. Would have been doing a lot better if Darnell Mooney caught that last Hail Mary, but hanging in there, man. Bears still have a 3% chance. I'm still going to root for the chance of us making it in, but it's probably not going to happen at this point.
And how many different scenarios this upcoming week need to happen in order for us to still stay alive? You said like 10,
there are like
right?
10, 15 different scenarios that have to happen, like 10, 15 games that have to go our way in the next like 3 weeks for us to even have a chance to get in. So not very likely, but if there's a chance, you know, I'll still be rooting for that chance to happen.
I'm with you because Justin Fields is the topic today. Everyone that comes to our channels knows that where we stand on this subject with quarterback one, but we have some thoughts today that we want to share with you guys that we've taken from you. And before we begin today's show is sponsored by Freshie Organic Tequila Seltzer, 99 calories of grapefruit, guava, lime, or blood orange habanero. Go to the QR code in the banner below in order to learn more about Freshie. And please, if you want the best possible quarterback for Chicago moving forward, Fields or not, smash that like button on this video and comment who you want to be QB1 next year for the Chicago Bears. But Rashad, let's get into what Justin Fields has done in the last 17 games for the Chicago Bears. He has 3,019 passing yards, 24 passing touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and an 86 QBR, along with over 1,600 rushing yards during that time and 10 rushing touchdowns. How do you feel about Justin Fields over the last 17 games? Full 17 games, by the way. This is not the injury that he had against the Vikings. How are you feeling about Fields, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I still like what he's done for the most part. He's definitely improved a lot in the last 17 games. If you look at his first 17 games compared to the last 17 games, it definitely is much better as a passer. Obviously, as a runner, he's still pretty good. But the question is it enough to be the quarterback of the future and, you know, pass up on a Caleb Williams or a Drake Maye? Okay, that's the question that Ryan Poles obviously is going to have to answer. But me being a big Justin Fields fan, like, I would still be 100% okay if the Bears keep Justin Fields for next year because of his growth as a passer. You know, I know that obviously that growth maybe has not been as much as people wanted it to be this year, but you also have to take into account that Luke Getsy is not a good offensive play caller. He's never had really a good offensive play caller, a good offensive mind to really develop him. So he still has some bad tendencies of like sometimes not seeing the field, sometimes starting to run a little bit too early and just not having the proper mechanics at times. But I still feel like with the right coach, with the right system, with the right pieces around him, Justin Fields can be a really good quarterback in this league. And he's obviously going to be a flawed quarterback, obviously. Always, I mean, like, he's never always going to be like a perfect quarterback, like a top, you know, Mahomes level quarterback maybe, but I think he's good enough to win games in this league if you have the right pieces around him.
Luke Getsy is the problem. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He's had 2 terrible play callers. Look what Matt Nagy did for him in his first 2 years. And then on top of it, what Matt Nagy's done to Patrick Mahomes, literally driven him crazy in Kansas City. So there is a lot of positives and progression with Justin Fields, but there's a lot of mistakes too, that some of them are not acceptable. I mean, we pound the table for that too, that he isn't perfect. He is getting better, but the patience of the Bears fan base and us, I mean, or I'm speaking for myself, Shab, you can correct me if I'm wrong, starting to get a little thin. It's not paper thin yet, but it's starting to get there. Are you still patient on Fields, or are you starting to get a little bit in the back of your mind what could be next?
Yeah, I mean, definitely a little bit impatient at this point because it has been 3 years, but I also have to, you know, obviously acknowledge that he has not had a good offensive coach like we just mentioned right now, and without good offensive minds in this league, like, it's really hard to be a successful quarterback, right? So, you know, I think a lot of other Bears fans are maybe more impatient than we are at this point, because if you look on Bears Twitter, if you look on Bears Facebook, like a lot of Bears fans at this point are completely done with Justin Fields, which I do understand to some extent. It's year three now, and we still have not been winning that many football games. So I totally get where they're coming from. But at the same time, if you give him one more year, like what if he breaks out next year and we trade him and he breaks out with a different team? Like that would be heartbreaking. So
I hope not. I mean, I hope not, but there is guys out there that we're going to go through real quick because there's a list of 6 guys that I have for today that we're going to run through real quick here, and 4 of them that you can draft, 2 of them in free agency for Chicago if they either move Justin to quarterback 2, which I don't think will happen. I think they're going to end up trading for him, but there is 6 guys we're going to run through real quick. So those 6 guys that the Chicago Bears could be looking at from a draft perspective is Caleb Williams from USC, Drake Maye from the University of North Carolina, Jayden Daniels from LSU, and Michael Penix Jr. from Washington. And then you could go to free agency as potential free agents in Kirk Cousins from Minnesota, the guys up north, and Ryan Tannehill. So, Rashad, going through that list real quick, you have 2 Pro Bowl quarterbacks. You have some generational, people are saying, prospects in the draft. What direction would you go with the next quarterback if you move on from Justin Fields based on the list above?
Yeah, I would go Caleb Williams 100%. I just think that he has the most high upside tools out of any quarterback in this class. And obviously he's had some struggles with, winning games last year, but he had such a bad team around him at times at USC, and Lincoln Riley kind of, collapsed down the stretch. So I think he has the most like Mahomes-like abilities, which for a team that passed on Mahomes, I would love to have a prospect like that. Now, the problem with him is that he has some of the same flaws as Justin Fields and holding onto the football a little bit too long, being a little bit careless with the football. Fumbling is a big issue for him. So I would still be worried to some extent with him. But if you want the, elite top of the league quarterback, that could maybe be Caleb Williams. And in regards to the other guys you brought up, like Drake Maye, also I'd be pretty happy with. I think a lot of people think he's like a Justin Herbert type quarterback, which would be pretty cool to develop. But with the free agents, like I don't think the Bears should go after a free agent quarterback like Kirk Cousins or, Ryan Tannehill. Even though Kirk Cousins would be probably the best Bears quarterback in their history, like I just don't think after an Achilles tear, with him getting older, like I don't think that would fit the timeline the Bears are, aiming for here. So I would definitely go Caleb Williams.
And it's funny you brought up Kirk Cousins because I get major Jay Cutler vibe from him. Like when the team was a quarterback away, they had this great defense, good wide receivers back when they first brought Cutler in, and then they did well, but it wasn't enough. So I would rather build through the draft too. I'm going to go with Drake Maye though. I like Drake Maye, bigger quarterback. Caleb Williams' hands are too small. Like it's a real thing. Like that's why fumbles are an issue. Yeah. Drake May's got big old hands. He's got a cannon of an arm. And yes, he went to UNC, but guess what? Like he's proven he's an athlete. I mean, he's a great quarterback. Caleb Williams, just his size overall scares me a little bit. I'm not going to take away from that because there is still talent. I mean, I'd be fine with any of those guys. Maybe not Ryan Tannehill. I'd be okay without him. I'd rather stick with Fields for another year before Tannehill. Rashad, before we go into the last, actually, let's go into the answer that we're going to have. Who would you go with as your quarterback moving forward? Are you sticking with Fields or are you going in another direction this offseason?
That's such a tough question to ask, and I really don't want to answer it because no matter what the Bears do, obviously I will support it because I'm a Bears fan first. So if we trade Justin Fields, draft Caleb Williams, I'll put all my support behind Caleb Williams. But me personally, still being a fan of Justin Fields, I still am rooting for that scenario in which he stays as a quarterback of the Bears. We trade the number 1 pick for a haul, get Marvin Harrison Jr., an edge rusher maybe, and just keep on building the team, because I feel like with that stacked team next year with a different head coach potentially, we could be a playoff contender, maybe a division contender as soon as next year with how good this team already is doing on defense. So I think the fastest path to being good is keeping Fields and hoping he takes that next step up. But obviously I'm not Ryan Poles, and what I think does not really matter.
I mean, we act like we're Ryan Poles. Everyone comes to us and be like, oh, you should join the room of Poles. And I wish that we could. Now, I'm in the same position too. I would stick with Fields for the following 2 reasons. One, the locker room loves him. This team was built around him over the last couple of seasons, and he is the leader. If you take him away, a lot of guys are going to get upset, especially you saw DJ Moore's reaction yesterday after the Cleveland game. And also just overall the defense is behind him too. But also, he hasn't had a legit play caller his entire NFL career, and yet he still keeps progressing. You know, Matt Nagy and Luke Getsy never cracked top 20 offenses ever. I mean, with at least Justin Fields. So it's not his fault. I would stick with Fields, though. You know, you have him on his rookie contract still. You have a 5th-year option, and then you can franchise tag him too. So it's a cap-friendly deal still. He is progressing, and he is just a Caleb Williams out there. So, you know, Rashad, before we close things out here, first, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Can the Bears pull this thing off with a 3% chance and make the playoffs?
If there's a chance, I'll say yeah. I mean, obviously I'm not going to predict it, but yeah, if there is a chance, maybe it's going to happen, right? Because if I do think we can win out here, right? Like we have easy games against the Cardinals, the Falcons, and okay, maybe the Packers is not an easy game, but I think we actually beat the Packers this time, stick it to them at Lambeau Field. And if you're sitting at 8-9 with how weak the NFC is right now, if the Vikings lose a couple, if the Packers lose a couple, like one to us, like it's not totally impossible, right? But obviously I would not hold my breath about making the playoffs, but there is a tiny chance. So if you are delusional like we are, like, hope for that chance to happen.
Well, I'll let everyone go be delusional in the comment section below, and make sure that you guys go follow Rashad at the Windy City Productions. His link is in the description, but thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you, man.
And thank you guys for tuning into this special episode of Just Another Year Chicago. My name is Rick Brody, joined along Rashad from the Windy City Productions, and we will see you guys next time.